Om
Sadashiva-Samarambham Shankaracharya-Madhyamam Asmadacharya-Paryantam Vande Guru-Paramparam. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sah Veeryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Okay, so today we are starting off with 8th chapter, and I have to remind you to recall the last two verses of chapter 7, where Krishna introduced 6 words. Do you remember what they were? The 6 new words were introduced. What were they?
Atmajnanam, and
Atmajnanam was not there.
Atmabodham.
Brahman Adibhutam Adidevam Sadiyagnam
And
Karma Adiyatmam.
see, Brahma, if you look at the second line of verse 29, Brahma, Adhyatmam, Karma, Adibhutam, Adiyagnyam, and Adidaivam. These are the terms which were introduced. Okay, and Krishna also talked about Prayana Kale Apichamam Navidur Yukta Chetasa. So you're remembering Ishvara at the time of Prayana Kalam, at the time of death of the physical body. Now in this chapter, remember these are all new terms, all technical terms. So Arjuna asks a few questions dealing with these 6 terms, and the 7th question dealing with that last line of the verse number 30, Prayana Kale, remembering Ishvara at the time of death. And the entire 8th chapter is by way of answering these questions of Arjuna. And Krishna uses Arjuna's questions to introduce the topic of Saguna Ishvara Dhyana, which otherwise we call Upasana. Upasana, remember, is meditation on Saguna Ishvara, right? Now, therefore, if you look at what has passed so far, in the first 6 chapters, or chapter number 2 to 6.
Recording in progress.
Recording is not done?
Just started now.
It's very much there. Okay. So, in the first 6 chapters of the Gita, mostly the sadhana we focused upon was Karma Yoga. And now in this middle section, Madhyama Shataka, the first these sections, we are focusing on what is known as Upasana. Right? That is why in the 7th chapter, the Upasyam, the object of meditation, was introduced first as Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman. And now we are going to talk about Upasana itself. So we'll look at verse number 8. So let us chant. Atha Ashtamodhyayah.
Ashtamodhyayah.
Akshara Brahma Yogaha.
Akshara Brahma Yogaha.
Arjuna Uvacha.
Arjuna Uvacha.
Kim tad Brahma kim adhyatmam. Kim karma purushottama.
Kim karma purushottama.
Adibhutam cha kim proktam.
Adibhutam cha kim proktam.
Adidaivam kimuchyate.
Adhidevam
Adhidevam kimuchyate.
Okay. So now when the chapter begins, so why does it begin? There is always a reason for a particular chapter to be introduced. And normally in his commentary, Shankara gives the reasons. So Shankara's introduction to this chapter consists by saying that Te Brahma Tadvidu Kritsnam Ityadinam Bhagavata Arjunasya. Krishna talked about a few things, Brahma, Kritsnam, etc., etc. Ityadinam Bhagavan Arjunasya Uktaha. Krishna told Arjuna. Right, so this is talking about the 29th verse and the 30th verse. And then Shankaracharya says, these words, Prashna Bijam, they are the seed for Arjuna's questions. And therefore, Tat Prashnam Arjuna Ovacha. Tat Prashnartham Arjuna Ovacha. These words used in the 29th verse and the 30th verse of the 7th chapter, Arjuna does not understand. And that Prashnartham, for clarification, Ovacha, he asks the questions. Now he asks the questions in the first two verses. That is why you will find Arjuna Ovacha consists of two verses. There are 5 questions in verse number 1 and 2 questions in verse number 2, making a sum total of 7 questions. What is first question? Kim tad Brahma? What do you mean by that Brahman? And this refers to Te Brahma tad Vidu Krishnam. What is that Brahman? So here, Kim tad Brahman? What did you mean, hey Krishna, when you use the word Brahman in the 29th verse? Remember that in our explanations over the 6 chapters or 7 chapters, we have talked a lot about Brahman. But if you look at the verses themselves, Brahman has not been introduced before. It is the first time in the 7th verse end that Krishna says Brahman. Similarly, Adhyatmam Kim. What is this Adhyatmam? That also Krishna has not used before. That is the second question. So first question is, what is Brahman? What do you mean by Brahman? Kim Brahma? Then Kim Adhyatmam? What do you mean by Adhyatmam? Then Kim Karma? What do you mean by Karma? What is the significance of the word Karma? Which of course means, is there a meaning beyond the Vachyartham, beyond the dictionary meaning of action? The third question. The fourth one is Adhibhutam Kim Proktam. What did you mean when you said Adhibhutam? Why did you say Adhibhutam? Fifth one is Adidaivam Kim Uchyate. What is Adidaivam? Okay, so these are the 5 questions in verse number 1. Now we chant verse number 2, where you will find the next 2 questions. Adhiyajñah katham katham kotra.
Adhiyagnyah katham kotra.
Dehesmin madhudana.
Desmin madhusudana.
Prayana kale cha katham.
Prayana
Yata atmabhihi.
Niyosi atmabihi.
So the next 2 questions are being asked. Adhiyajña kaha. What exactly is Adhiyajñaha? And then there is another question which is actually not considered a separate question. It's just an extension of this Adhiyajña kaha. So he says, Katham asmin dehe. Where does it reside? Where does this Adhiyajña reside in the body? So you look at Adhiyajña kaha. So that ko has to be brought forward. Adhiyajña kaha. And then Katham atra dehe asmin madhusudan. So where does this Adhiyajña reside? First of all, what is Adhiyajña? And atra dehe. How does this Adiyagnya reside in this body? Okay. This is the sixth question, consisting of two parts. Now, sub-commentators point out that there is a big mystery over here. You know what the mystery is? He says, Adhiyagnya kaha. What is Adhiyagnya? And at the same time, he says, how does this Adhiyagnya reside in the body? The commentators point out that when Arjuna does not know what Adhiyagnya is, how does he know it resides in the body? So this is one of those unsolved mysteries of Bhagavad Gita, okay? Nobody knows. Because nobody answers this question. So if you want to test somebody's knowledge in Bhagavad Gita, you can ask him. How did Arjuna know that Adhiyagnya resides in the body when he had no idea what Adhiyagnya was? Okay. That is a unsolved mystery. And some commentators say that this katham, which Shankara has taken as how does it reside in the body, some commentators say that you should say katham chintayaniyaha. How should one meditate upon this adhyaya? That is one more meaning which some commentators add. This is just for your overall knowledge. So 6 questions are over. Then he says prayana kale cha katham geyaha asinniyatatmabihi. Prayana kale, at the time of your death of the physical body, katham geyosi niyatatmabihi. How can a person remember this Ishvara at the time of death? Because he said that you should remember me. Prayana kale apicha mam, he said. So Arjuna is saying that prayana kale, in what manner? What is the sadhana which will make it possible for me to remember you at the time of the death of the physical body? So prayana normally means yatra, okay, but travel. But here it means anta prayana, so final yatra of the body, which is death of the physical body. And what happens after the physical body? Then the jiva goes. So that's different. But the yatra here is the final yatra of the physical body, which is from where? From the deathbed to the crematorium, to Samshan Ghat. And katham geya asmi, asi. How are you to be remembered? This geya normally means known, but here you should take it as upasana because the whole chapter deals with upasana. So you should take it as upasana. How are you to be meditated upon? And by whom? Niyata atmabihi, by people who have self-control. Why does he say people who have self-control over here? Because a person to be able to remember the Lord when he is dying must have a tremendous control over his mind. And therefore, niyata atmavihi. He has got excellent control of his mind. Even when the body is dying, his focus on the mind, on the Lord has not shifted. Okay. Now, when you read this, that when he is dying, he is thinking of the Lord. And secondly, the final journey. What is the extraction from this particular couple of ideas? That this is not, the topic is not a jnani. Why? Because, why? Because the jnani has become a jivan mukta. And therefore, this is a question, not for a jnani jivan mukta. This is a question for an upasaka who has not got jivan mukti. Right? These questions are not meant for jnani. Okay. Now, also Madhusudana. Madhusudana is the slayer of Madhu, one who has killed the demon Madhu. And therefore, this verse has 2 questions. Now here, to introduce a slightly side topic, we should know what is the difference between Bhashyam and the Tika. So there is a Tika is a sub-commentary, Bhashyam is a commentary. Now, a commentator writes a Bhashyam on the original text. So Shankaracharya writes Bhashyams. He comments on the original texts. But there are sub-commentators like Anandagiri. So sub-commentator means tikakara. Tikakara means he is commenting not on the mulam, not on the original text, but he is commenting on Shankara's bhashya. So that's called tikakara. Now there is, for example, Anandagiri is a tikakara. He comments on Shankaracharya's commentary. But there is another commentator called Nilakanta Acharya, or for example, Madhusudana Saraswati. Both of them comment directly on the Bhagavad Geeta, and so they are also Bhashakaras. They are not Tikakaras. Okay. Now, why I introduced this was Shankaracharya has not commented upon the word Madhusudana. Madhusudana literally means the one who kills Madhu, Madhu being a Rakshasa or a demon. So, since Shankara doesn't comment, in studying the texts, we normally like to look, I mean, I've been trying to follow that, as you may have noticed, we normally like to interpret based on commentaries only. So even word meanings, if they are explicit, even if they're explicitly, like you can look at a dictionary and get a word meaning, we try to see whether any of the commentators has commented, and we try to see whether Shankaracharya has commented. And here Shankaracharya has not commented. So when Shankaracharya has not commented, obviously no Tikakara will also have commented, because Tikakara comments on the original commentary of Shankaracharya. Since he has not commented, you will not find Anandagiri talking about Madhusudana. And therefore you have to look at some other commentator, direct commentator, Bhashyakara. And Madhusudana Saraswati is a Bhashyakara. He says that Madhusudana means the destroyer of the demon Madhu. So that's obvious, but here he is confirming it. So Madhu is the name of a Rakshasa who was killed by Lord Krishna. And philosophically, if you look at it, who is that Rakshasa? As far as we are concerned, Ahankara, the ego, is called Madhu. Why? Because Madhu means sweet, or Madhu means honey, which is sweet. That means something which is dear to me. And what is dear for everybody? It is your own ego, it is your own ahankara. And so here, what does Krishna do? By becoming Brahma Vidya teacher, Bhagavan destroys the ahankara. And therefore he is destroying Madhu. Therefore he is called Madhusudana. Bhagavan becomes Madhusudana because of his role as Brahma Vidya Guru. This is the Vedantic explanation for the word Madhusudana. Okay. Now, what about the rest of the words? Let's get one. Yeah. So Shankara gives an introduction to the other verses, and he says, "This the Lord now begins to answer these questions of Arjuna, and we call it in management term seriatim, in the same order in which they have been asked." So Shankara says, "Yatha krama prashna," the same order in which the questions have been asked, the Lord begins to answer. And the answer begins from verse number 3 onwards, which we will chant. Verse number 3. Shri Bhagavan Vacha
श्रीभगवानुवाच
Aksharam Brahma Paramam
अक्षरं
Brahma
ब्रह्म परमं
Svabhavo Uchyate
स्वभावोऽध्यात्ममुच्यते
Udbhavodbhavakaraha
भूतभावोद्भवः
Sarga Karma Sanyataha.
विसर्गः कर्मसङ्गतः
Okay. So, as I said, with this verse, the answer begins to all the 7 questions. And out of the 7 questions, the first 6 he answers very briefly. So let's look at them. What is the first question? Tat Brahma Kim. What is the answer? It is given here. Aksharam Paramam Brahma. What is Aksharam? Na sharati, na nashayati, iti Aksharam. That means does not decay or does not get destroyed. That is Aksharam. And Paramam means the highest. The highest imperishable principle is called Brahman. So Paramam Aksharam, the highest, the most superior principle which is imperishable, that is called Brahman. Remember that Aksharam is also alphabet. In fact, the Sanskrit alphabets are called Akshara Mala. And in later Upanishad, you'll find that Brahman is called Aksharam. Atha parayaya tat aksharam adhigamyate. Mundaka Upanishad says. So all this is a reference to that whenever you hear the word Aksharam, you have to think about Aksharam Brahma. And what is Aksharam? What is really imperishable in this world? Consciousness, Chaitanyam, is the only entity which remains imperishable. Because Anatma is subject to decay and destruction every minute of your life, right? Your body is decayed and changes every minute. So Apara Prakriti is perishable. Para Prakriti is Aksharam, imperishable. In fact, the very word Brahman is derived from the Dhatu Brih, which means big, limitless, Anantam. So that Ananta Tattvam is Brahman. And here, therefore, Paramam Aksharam means that eternal, absolutely eternal, highest principle, which is consciousness, which is called Brahman. Okay, now the question might say, you might ask a question that when you are saying eternal, it is eternal, right? It means no birth, no death. Then what is the purpose of adding the adjective Paramam? Any answer to that? Anybody knows? Why do you say Paramam Aksharam?
Maya is also Anadi.
Anadi. We are talking about Aksharam. We are talking about eternal, Nityam.
Can there be two kinds of Nitya, Atyantika and
Because it's the
Apekshita
first
Nityam?
principle.
Is it considered
Consciousness
that?
is the first principle.
No. So remember that in the Gita, Aksharam can represent either consciousness or Maya. Okay. And therefore, if you want to distinguish, how will you distinguish? One is Satyam and one is Mithya. That is only distinction because both are eternal. Both do not have birth, both do not have death. And therefore, how will you distinguish? Either you say Satyam Aksharam, which is very odd way of saying, or you say Paramam Aksharam, that which is superior to Maya. Why is it superior to Maya? Because Maya is dependent upon it. And therefore, Paramam here is added to the word Aksharam to indicate that it is consciousness. And sometimes, if it is not added, then it becomes Maya. All from the context. There are what you call sentences where Aksharam itself means Brahman, right? But in this case, you are adding that to distinguish it from Maya. So there are two types of Nityam, Atyantika Nityam and Apekshika Nityam. Apekshika Nityam is, which is eternal, but it's changing all the time. So there are two eternities, two eternal entities. One is changeless and one is constantly changing. Both are eternal. Brahman is eternal, Brahman is Nityam, Maya is Nityam. But Brahman is Nirvikara. Maya is constantly changing, Savikara. And therefore, this adjective Paramam here indicates the Nirvikara Akshara, right? Not Maya. Okay. Now, remember that even in terms of Nityam, one is the relative Nityam, which is Apekshika Nityam, because that keeps on changing. It comes into being, goes back into being. So another word for Brahman is Kutastha Nityam. Kutaha means anvil, indicating non-change. So Kutastha Nityam can be used for changeless Brahman. And for Maya, it's not a very frequently used word, but I have seen it somewhere. Pravaha Nityam. Pravaha means flow. Or flowing means changing. Therefore, for Maya, you also say Pravaha Nityam. So all these words you keep in mind because occasionally you might come across it in some text or the other. You should not get confused. Okay, also note that Akshara is used to denote the sacred syllable Om. Okay. And therefore, the Purvapakshi stands up here and says, how do you say Aksharam is Brahman? Because Aksharam means Om. So Shankara negates it by saying that no, the use of the adjective Paramam to Aksharam rules out the possibility of Om. And of course, Prakarana Arthe also, in terms of the context also, the subject here is Nirguna Brahman and not Om. Now, one interesting derivation from the discussion is what? Om is a name for Brahman, but Om is not Brahman. Because you very often hear this, Om is Brahman. Whenever you hear that, remember that Om is a name for Brahman, but Om is not Brahman. And that is why he says, Paramam, when you say, it means Brahman and not Om. Okay. And this chapter, of course, is called Akshara Brahman because Krishna's teaching begins with the word Aksharam Brahma in this particular verse. So that is the answer to the first question. That Brahman means Aksharam Brahma, consciousness principle. Then comes the second question. Adhyatmam Kim? What is Adhyatma? And Krishna says here in the second quarter of this third verse, Swabhavaha Adhyatmam Uchyate. Adhyatmam Swabhavaha. Adhyatmam means know about myself. Right? So Adhyatmam Swabhavaha, nature. Swabhava is nature. Adhyatmam Swabhava means my own nature. So this Adhyatmam word, he is saying, it refers to my own nature, my true nature. What is my true nature? My higher nature. What is my higher nature? That all-pervading consciousness, which we call Paraprakriti. That is all-pervading, right? So this consciousness, remember, it is all-pervading, Sarvagataha. And the idea is that though this consciousness is all-pervading, it can be recognized where? Only within your body. And therefore, Atman here can mean the body or the mind. And therefore, Adhyatman is really speaking Adi Atman, inside the Atman, inside the body, inside the mind. So it can be taken as that consciousness which is recognizable within the body. That is called Adhyatma. So that is the RC. Because OC is not recognizable in the body excepting as the RC. So therefore, the RC is recognizable as such inside your own body. That is what you call Adhyatmam over here, what Krishna calls Adhyatmam over here. So that same consciousness principle, when we look at it from the point of view of Samashti, is called Brahman. That same consciousness principle, when we look at it from the point of the Vyashti body, the individual body, it is called Adhyatmam. And Swabhavaha here means inner essence. And therefore, the consciousness within my body, which is actually a manifestation of Brahman in my body, the reflection of Brahman in my body as the RC, that consciousness is called Adhyatma. So Brahman has two viewpoints, right? Aksharam Brahma is Paramatma, Adhyatmam is Jivatma. Both are Brahman alone. From the macro angle, it is Brahman. From the micro angle, it is Adhyatma. There is no difference. The consciousness is the same. You are giving it two different names because you are viewing it as from two different frameworks of reference. That is why two different names. Just like I am called father by my daughter and I am called son by my mother, two different words, same person, two different viewpoints. Okay. And here again we look at what Madhusudana Saraswati says. He says the word Paramam Aksharam, he relates it to Tattvamasi. A very interesting an explanation. He says, take the Mahavakyam Tattvamasi, and therefore in that Mahavakyam, the Lakshyartham, the implied meaning of Tat is what? Paramam Brahma. The implied meaning of Tat is what? Consciousness principle alone. And therefore is pointing out that in Tat Pada Lakshyartha is Paramam Aksharam, Paramatma Swarupam, while Tvam Pada Lakshyartha is Jivatma Swarupam. Basically, both are the same. That is why it says Tat Tvam Asi. But if you look at the words, he says Paramam Aksharam refers to Tat Pada Lakshyartha, which is Paramatma Swarupam, and Tvam Pada Aksharam, Tvam Pada Lakshyartha refers to the Jivatma Swarupam. Both are the same because you're talking about Lakshyartha, not the Vachyartha. The implied meaning of Tat and Tvam are both consciousness principle, Brahman alone. So this is the second answer, the second question. The third question was Kim Karma. What is the answer? It's given in the first part of the second line. Bhuta Bhavaha Bhuta Udbhavaha Kara Visargaha. Now, Visargaha, if you look at the Sanskrit dictionary, the word Visargaha means throwing out. In fact, Visarga is also used sometimes in the terms of excretion, throwing out waste from your body. So, Visarga can mean dropping out, throwing out. And therefore, Shankara gives that meaning and says Visarga is dropping. Dropping of what? So, he says in any homam, there is the Agni Kunda, right? That is that fireplace, Agni Kunda. During a Vaidika Yaga, what happens? You offer oblations into the fire, into the kunda, right? Into the fireplace, you give oblations. It can be ghee, it can be milk, it can be anything, right? So Shankara says that Visarga here means dropping of oblations in a Vedic ritual into the fire. That's the meaning, okay? And finally, you extend that. He says that is the primary meaning, and if you extend it, then Visarga can be called as a Vedic ritual because the whole thing is connected to Vedic rituals, and therefore extended meaning of the word Visarga's literal meaning is dropping. A slightly extended meaning is dropping into Agni Kunda. A further extended meaning is the Agni Kunda is part of Vedic rituals. So Visarga, he says, can finally mean Vedic rituals itself, the karma itself. And therefore he says the word Visarga here has to be taken as all Vaidika karma, all deliberate activities of human beings. It is called karma. Now, what is the direct result of any karma? It is a karma phalam. And therefore he says this karma, which means this karma phalam, is bhuta bhavaha udbhavakaraha. Udbhavakaraha means the cause. Bhuta bhava means living beings, the birth of living beings. The final meaning of that portion is that it is the karma of all beings, which actually means karma phalam of all beings, which is the final cause, the root cause of the birth of all living beings. Okay, it's very, very extended meaning, but beautifully presented. So he's saying that creation is not an accident at all. My birth in this particular role, in this particular country, in this particular body is not an accident. It is a result of my own past karma. Every individual's birth is because of individual karma. And if you take the whole thing together, all the living beings together is Srishti, is creation. And therefore creation itself is because of the karma of all beings. And therefore Bhuta Bhava, the existence of all living beings, Udbhavakaraha, which is the cause. So Bhut Bhava Udbhavakaraha is that cause which brings about the existence of all living beings, which brings about this very creation itself. Okay. So you get a good share of parents because of a karma. Your parents get you as their child because of their karma. The past creation is the result of past karma only. The future creation will be the result of current karma. And therefore, what is karma? Srishti karana. Therefore, a very interesting idea is being conveyed. This creation has come into being not because of Ishvara's wish. This creation has come into being because you or we, with our actions, we have created certain karma which has to be exhausted. And for that karma, a certain set of uh, factors are required for exhaustion. The universe is required for exhaustion. And therefore, everybody together, if you take the collective karma, is the Srishti karma. Collective karma is the reason why Ishvara had to create the Srishti. And therefore, he says karma sangitaha. That particular cause for the Srishti, it is called karma. A very beautiful definition of karma. Karma is not just action and karma phalam. Karma is the very cause for the Srishti itself. See how beautifully presented. Earlier on, we said karma is karma phalam, karma is by jiva, all those things. Srishti is by Bhagavan. But here he is saying that not only is Bhagavan Srishti Karanam, but karma is also Srishti Karanam. Karma of all living beings. So instead of saying Bhagavan created the world, we can say the collective karma is Jagat Karan. Right? And to understand that properly, we have to extract some meanings from it. When we say karma is the cause for creation of the universe, you are also saying that Ishvara cannot create the world without the karma of the jivas. Ishvara has no power to create a world. That power is provided by the karma of the jivas, because it is for their exhaustion that he has to create the world. Therefore, Ishvara's omnipotence and omniscient is being limited by the jiva himself. Because if, supposing you say, no, Ishvara can create the world without the karma of the jivas. The world here obviously means jivas also. And if without the karma of the jivas, Ishvara creates the world, it will be a lopsided world. Because karma having not been taken into account, people will be getting random, punishments or random joys. And therefore, the message here is that Ishvara can never create the world without the help of Jiva. So the world is actually a joint venture between Bhagavan and Jiva. It's a joint venture between Ishvara and the Jiva. What are individual contributions? Jiva contributes to the world through his karma phalam. Ishvara contributes through his all-knowing and all strength. That is omniscience and omnipotence. His total knowledge and his total strength. They are the contribution that Ishvara makes. Jiva makes the contribution of karma phalam. And together with this, the world can be created. So only Ishvara, there is no necessity to create a world. Only Jiva, he does not have the power. And because of this reason only, you should note that both Ishvara and Jiva are said to be anadi. They have no beginning at all. Because beginning means creation, and if either of them are missing, that creation can never occur with this logic. Okay. Then one Purva Pakshi stands up and says, okay, fine, this is what you are saying. But in that case, there are hundreds of Shastra Vakyams which talk only about Ishvara as the creator. Should Shruti have not included Jiva also as creator? What is the answer? Jiva is not separately mentioned because it is which aspect of Jiva where the karma is located? Which of the bodies is karma located? Bodha.
Karana
Karana.
Karana Sharira.
Right. Now, in Karana Shariram, remember that the one of the features is that it is indistinguishable. There are no distinctive features. And therefore, Shastra says that the Karana Avastha of a Jiva and the Karana Avastha of the universe, which is to say, individual Karana Shariram, Vyashti Karana Shariram, and Samashti Karana Shariram, there are no distinguishing factors. They cannot be distinguished at all. This Vyashti Samashti, micro macro difference, is experienced only after the manifestation of time and space. And therefore, Shastra talks only about Ishvara, because in Antaryami Ishvara, which is what Samashti Karana Shariram, all the Vyashti Karana Sharirams are also included. Therefore, when Shastra says Ishvara, not only including the Jivas, also including Ishvara himself. So both parts are included. The omnipotence and omniscience and the karma phalam is also included. Okay, then what is the next question? Now you are saying that in that Karana Avastha, there is Ishvara and there is Jiva. Does this not negate Advaitam? Because there are two things. And the answer is that wherever we are talking about Vyavaharika, remember the word Advaitam can never be used on the transactional scale. In the relative world, Vyavaharika Satyam, you can never talk about Advaitam. Because whether it is manifest or unmanifest, the Vyashti Shamashti difference, the micro macro difference, will always be present in the Vyavaharika level. And what Shruti is trying to teach us is that behind, as a substratum of the Vyavaharika level, in and through all the Vyavaharika level, which is Dvaita in nature, there is the Paramarthika Satyam, the Paramarthika Chaitanyam, the Paramarthika absolute consciousness. In that absolute consciousness, Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, the differences are not present. The differences are present only in relative reality in the Vyavaharika plane alone. Okay, any questions so far? All right, we have time for one more verse. So let us chant verse number 4. Adibhutam ksharo bhavaha
Adhibhutam
Adhibhutam
Sharo
Sharo
Bhavaha
Bhavaha
purushascha
Purushadaivatam
Purushashchadidaivatam
adiyajñohamevatra
Adhiyajño
Adhiyajñohamevara
Hamevatra
dehe dehabhritam vara.
Dehe
Dehabratam
Hamvara.
Vara.
So, in this verse, 3 more questions are answered. So, Adhibhutam Kim was the question. What is Adhibhutam? Okay. Now, Shankara says, Adhibhutam is whatever is connected to Bhutam. And what is a Bhutam? Bhutam is whatever is a prani, whatever is born from the Panchamahabhutas. So anything which is connected to whatever is born from Panchamahabhutas is Bhutam. So he says Prani Jatam. Bhutam means living beings. He wants to make it clear that Adhibhuta, in the word Adhibhutam, you should not take Bhuta as Panchamahabhutas. You should take born out of Panchamahabhutas plus consciousness, which is a Prani, right? RM plus OC is RC. So Bhutam here is RC, a living being, a Jiva. So Adhibhutam, whatever is connected to living being, that is Adhibhutam. Very meaning is anything which is connected to all the Jivas is Adhibhutam. And what does that mean? He says, Sharo bhavaha. Sharaha bhavaha. So bhavaha here means an object or a being, entity. And that entity can be either sentient or insentient. Right? So sharaha. Sharaha means it is subject to destruction. So anything which has got a beginning and vinashaha, end, sharaha, subject destruction, these are called adhibhutam. Very technical word. Ultimately meaning anatma only. Why? Anatma, all anatma has got beginning and has got an end. So anything you look at, sun, moon, rivers, mountains, planets, stars, everything is what? Physical body. Everything is matter only. All matter comes in the adhibhutam. The entire universe, every piece of the universe comes under adhibhutam because there is a beginning and there is an end. So that's what it means, sharabhavaha. It is connected to whatever has a beginning and an end. Okay, that is adhibhutam. Any object, and you have to add any object, living, non-living, and because it is an object, it's got a beginning and therefore an end, and therefore you experience it. It is called adhibhutam. Whatever is experienceable with your sense organs is adhibhutam only. And the fifth question was, adhidaivam kim? Kim uchyate means what is it said to be? So Krishna says here, Purushas-chadi daivatam. So Krishna defines adhidaivam as Purushaha. Purushaha cha adhidaivatam. That is the meaning of the word. That's the breakup of the word. Adhidaivatam Purushaha cha. Adhidaivam is Purushaha. Now this Purushaha is what? Remember the definition of Purushaha. Purnam anena sarvam iti. That purayati sarvam. That which fills up everything. That which is all pervading. That is adhidaivam. And what is it that is all pervading? Or who is it that is all pervading? That is Hiranyagarbha alone. It pervades everything. The samashti shukshma shariram plus chaitanyam, which is Hiranyagarbha, consciousness associated with the universal or total subtle body. He is the presiding deity of every organ. He is present everywhere because all the presiding deities of every individual organ put together is called what? It's called Hiranyagarbha alone. Okay, so that is this Hiranyagarbha. That is one definition of Hiranyagarbha. Purayati sarvam, that which fills up everything. So Purushaha is Hiranyagarbha over here. And Hiranyagarbha can be derived in another manner also. So when Hiranyagarbha is invoked for meditation, when Lord Brahmaji is invoked for meditation, we normally invoke in Surya Mandalam, in the solar disk. And so we say Puri Shayanath, residing in Puri. Puri here being that city which is the Surya Mandalam. Shayanath, he is residing there, lying down there, relaxing over there. That is called Hiranyagarbha. Two different ways of looking at Hiranyagarbha. Why is Hiranyagarbha called Adhidaivam? Because Hiranyagarbha is the universal subtle body which blesses the 17 organs of the individual subtle body. Okay. So then this objectionist Purvapakshi stands up and says, why add Adhi? Why not simply say Daivam? Because the word Adhi means connected to, right? So connected to means associated with. And associated with what? With the Devatas. So just pointing out that Hiranyagarbha blesses the sense organs, not directly, but through the various presiding deities of the organs. And that is why we said the totality of the presiding deities of all these Indriyas is Hiranyagarbha only. Therefore, through the Jnanendriya Devatas, Hiranyagarbha blesses all the individual Jnanendriyas. Through the Karmendriya Devatas, Hiranyagarbha blesses the Karmendriyams. Through the Antakarana Devatas, Hiranyagarbha blesses the Antakaranams. Therefore, that one Hiranyagarbha utilizes the service of many amshas, many devatas to bless all the organs. And since this one Hiranyagarbha associated with many, many devatas, Hiranyagarbha is called Adidaivam, the one who has a connection with all the presiding devatas of all the organs. And therefore, Adidaivata. Each organ is blessed by one devata. That's why we say, Bhadram Karnebihi Shrunayama Devata. I want each devata to bless my organ. Eye should work, ear should work, buddhi should work. For each devata, for each organ, there is devata. And remember that while Hiranyagarbha is located all over, Samashti Shariram, Shastra says individual devatas, they are the amshas, they are the parts. That the individual devatas are located near body itself. So for example, Surya Devata, which blesses your eyes, Chakshuhu, is located in Chakshu Golakam. And at the time of death, since the Chakshu Golakam is no longer functional and the Sukshma Shariram is leaving, the Surya Devata is no longer required in the Sukshma Shariram. So he also leaves and he goes back to Surya Mandi. Right? When you get another body in the next Janma, then another part, again Surya Devata will bless you by sending a portion of its Shakti as an Amsha. Right? And it will again reside in your body. And the sixth question is, Adi Yajna Kaha? Who is this Adi Yajna? So Shankara says, Adi Yajna is that person who is identified with all the Yajnas. And he says he is called Vishnu. And that is why in Vishnu Sahasranama we have this line, Yajnyo Yajnapatir Yajnva Yajnyango Yajnavahanaha. Yajnaha, the one who is in the form of the Yajna. Yajnapatihi, the one who is the protector of all the Yajnas. Yajva, the one who is manifest also as the Yajamana, the performer of the Yajna. And Yajna Angaha, all the parts of the body are identified with the Yajna. Right? So if you see the Vishnu Sahasrama commentaries, you will find all these over there. And Yajna Vahanaha, the one who carries the Yajna, supports the Yajna. How? By giving the Yajna a fruit, giving Yajna a phalam. And Krishna says what? Ahameva. Ahameva. Atra ahameva. I myself am this Adi Yajna. I am Ishvara. Ishvara is the Adi Yajna. So how can Ishvara be the Yajna performer and the Yajna Sakshi also? The answer is simple. Sarvam. Ishvara is everything. So he is Vishnu, the father of Hiranyagarbha, I am. That Ishvara I am. And if you remember Tattvabodha, what was Ishvara's definition? Chaitanyam Sahita Karana Prapancha. Samashti Karana Shariram. The whole universe in potential form, otherwise called Avyakta Maya, otherwise called Maya Shaktihi. That potential universe called Antaryami, that is Ishvara. And he says, Ahameva, I am alone, that Ishvara. Where Atra, in this body. So that Atra has to be explained. Why does this all-pervading Ishvara, who is responsible for everything, the cause of everything, why does he have to be in your body? Shankara says, in your body also he has to be there. Because he has to witness all the karma done by you so that he can give you the appropriate phala. So Hiranyagarbha is in the Aditya Mandala, in the solar disk. But that same Hiranyagarbha is present in your body as Adi Yajna for the purpose of delivering the karma phalam. And he says, Deya Vratam Varaha. O best among the ones who have a body. He's talking about Arjuna. Hey Arjuna, the best among the ones who have a body. Then, what was the last part of the question? Katham asmin dehe. How does Adi Yajna reside in this body? So he says, Atra dehe deha vratam varaha. In this body, I alone reside as Adi Yajna, as Ishvara. Right? So that same Hiranyagarbha, who is now residing in the body, he is being talked about over here as Adi Yajna. Adi Yajna is Ishvara who resides in the body. That's Krishna is saying that same Hiranyagarbha residing in the body is called Adi Yajna. And he is resident in every body, in every Nara. And that is why the residence is called Ayanam. And this Ishvara, this Hiranyagarbha, is resident in every Naraha, in every human being. Therefore, Narayanam, that Ishvara, whose residence is the body of every individual human being. Every living being, your body is the residence of the Lord. And that's why he says, Atra Dehe, in this body I stay. Right? In what form? Vishva, Tejasa, and Prajna. How to distinguish Adi Daivam and Adi Yajnam? If that question is asked, then you have to say that Adi Daivam is Hiranyagarbha, Samashti Sukshma Shariram. Adi Yajnam is what? Ishvara, the Karana Shariram. So summarize Brahman, Adhyatmam, Adi Daivatam, Adi Yajna. We have seen all this. They are all four different names for what? For the same Brahman, for the same consciousness principle alone. That one consciousness principle alone, Atma or Brahman, is called by four different names from four different points of view. But ultimately, Brahman is pure consciousness, Nirguna Chaitanya. Without association with any of these points of view, it is Nirguna Brahman. When associated with different points of view, we have Adhyatmam, Adi Daivatam, Adi Yajna, etc. These are the names. So Adhyatmam is that very same all-pervading consciousness, but available for recognition within the individual body. When that same consciousness is available for recognition within the total body, Samashti Sukha Shariram, it is called Adi Daivatam. Hence, Adi Daivatam is also consciousness. Adi Yajnam is also consciousness. One is Samashti Sukshma Prapancha angle. One is Samashti Karana Prapancha angle. The containers are different, but the content is only one. If you know one consciousness, therefore, Nirguna Brahman, and you know the containers, you have understood four things, because all the four are names of one consciousness, but from four different things. So with this, we'll stop for today. Any questions?
Acharya ji, so Adhyatmam can also be called Sakshi.
Adhyatmam is what is called Sakshi. The Sakshi Chaitanya is to be specifically taken as consciousness within a human body. You cannot take Sakshi Chaitanya, is very, very commonly used. That Sakshi Chaitanya is also total consciousness, but it is not. Technically speaking, whenever you say Sakshi, it is a witness principle inside your body. So that consciousness available for recognition within your body is called Sakshi. Outside the body, it is not available for recognition. It's called Nirguna Brahman.
Ji, thanks.
Okay, so with this, we'll
Om
stop.
Acharya, it doesn't, sorry. If you're in a hurry, Acharya, I'll post the questions.
No, tell me.
No. So is this, then when we speak about Sakshi Chaitanya, aren't we giving it a location? Is that
Yes, you're giving
against
it a
what?
because
Yeah.
it's within your mind.
So,
location is not for residence. Location is to be understood as
okay.
where it is available for recognition.
Presence, maybe.
Not presence, for recognizing it. You can recognize consciousness only in your own mind.
Okay. So it doesn't conflict with the idea that we are giving it any location.
It is not for the purpose of location, it is for the purpose of recognition only.
Yeah, we did that in Munda.
Yeah, we did that. Yes, I remember. But that's what set the train of thought in me that
so the ideas will come again and again throughout all the Gita Upanishads. By the time you finish them all, they'll be all very firmly engraved in your brain.
Thank you, Acharya. I think you may be getting it. Yeah.
Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate
Purnamudachyate
Purnamadaय Purnam
Purnamevavashyate.
Om
Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Shivaya. Thank you for your patience. Om.
Thank you.